Good morning, Jimmy Townsend here. I just wanted to answer a couple questions that people had asked me on my videos. One fellow asked me what was the most effective way of communicating and if I thought videos were the best. And these videos are a very effective way of communicating. It's just like having a conversation with somebody, albeit a little one-sided, but there's a lot of those too. I have about 50 videos on YouTube and probably another 300 on about another half a dozen video places. One of my videos is about an hour long and it's had about 4,500 hits. So that's 4,500 hours of attention to people out there and getting my ideas across. I realize that sometimes I have an awful lot of information that I'm getting out there. I have a software emulation of a human brain that I wrote many years ago, and for many years I've been putting all sorts of human history in there, people, organizations, everything that you can possibly think of, all along a timeline, all linked together. I can ask it questions about a person and instantaneously I can see every organization that they belong to, all that other sort of stuff. So this is how I am a systems analyst, and I use this tool when I used to be employable, and go into businesses and analyze how they work, and then I write software to streamline different aspects of the business and automate all of their paperwork and things like that. And so I've used this system ever since then to put all of the information, all of the various acts for thousands of years pertaining to Canada, all the governments, government organizations, banking information, the legal system. So that's how I came up with this system that I posit all the time, this Fabian strategy of force, religion, and legislation, and the idea that the world is simply run by bankers from Basel, Switzerland, which is also the home of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, that have set up this global system of force, religion, and legislation run out of the Vatican, London, and Washington. And centuries ago they went into these target nations and formed de facto governments, and using those governments set up de facto courts. And of course now you have a system run by criminals to process everybody through. So it's a company store, and they have the courts in their pocket, and then they've got their own military mercenary force. They have a mercenary force within Canada called the Royal Canadian Military Police there, or Royal Canadian Mercenary Police. Oh, Mounted Police, that's right. And and then they got CSIS, that's the spies inside Canada that spy on Canadians for these foreign powers. And then we have the Canadian Army. If we take a look at the Canadian Criminal Code, Canadian Armed Forces is defined as Her Majesty's forces raised by Canada. We Canadians have never had our own army. Her Majesty, who is the world's largest drug dealer, uses our forces for cannon fodder, and it's a good way of getting rid of a bright, intelligent young man that will lay down their lives for their country. The unfortunate thing is they are all sacrificed on the altar of deceit, and that's why we're in an undeclared and illegal Jew-Arab war over opium poppies in Afghanistan, is because it's just drug dealers that control our society, and that's why they're fighting this drug war against themselves, and it's very lucrative, and none of us will ever figure it out because, it's such a brilliant global operation. It's like nobody's going to notice that the only industry left in BC is the $25 billion a year marijuana industry. Well, you know what? In order to succeed in business, you have to be extraordinarily astute. So when such an industry is doing so well, when everything else is failing, whoever's controlling that is extraordinarily astute. And if you ask, well, if you think about it, the only way that it can survive is if the government and the courts are in on the thing. Well, these are the same people that are, of course, they're just running everything. It's the company store, right? And the company store beggars everybody, takes everything back from everybody. And why did they do that? Because we are labor resources. You see, only labor creates profit. the resources that are out there, the trees and the rocks, mining, water, and all that other sort of stuff that are our birthright, but they take by claim of right under color of law, and that's not enough that they take our birthright, that they take everything. They have to have us too, so they claim us as human resources. And you don't even have the right to your own labor. You don't have the right. You have to give up half of your labor up front, and then everything you buy off the company store, after you've given them half your labor up front, they also take another chunk out of it until you're barely left with anything, and you're just sitting there like the little gerbil running on the wheel, and you get no food until you die of starvation and exhaustion. And it's not like we're so base that we can't figure it out after hundreds of years of this happening to us. And there is a rising enlightenment. People are wise to this. They understand how religion's just a part of it. And you know what? Anytime that you tell me that my spirituality needs to be contained within a building, I know you're a fraud. There's nothing between me and the energy of the cosmos. There's nothing between me and the energy of the next human being that I see, that I connect to. And anybody that wants to put themselves in the middle of those type of energy for profit, you got to kind of understand what is going on. So I find the best way of communicating is with these little brochures. Take and put your thoughts down onto a one-page brochure, and read it over and over until it just makes absolute perfect sense to you, and then get out there and distribute it, because you'll be amazed at how many people have the exact same thing in their mind, but they don't want to say anything, because everybody's telling them at work sites this. The government's always, play it again, play it again, play it again, tell them this, tell them this, tell them this, and it's all BS and everything else, but all gobbledygook and all that other sort of stuff. Well, this is a dissertation on real money, and people are very interested in what constitutes real money, and how are they still going to carry on transactions while the company store crashes the economy in order to try and grab all the rest of the stuff that they have. So people are wanting to be open to that. Now, it's more personal. You see, everybody, you put all this stuff on the internet, and from around the world, people tell you, we've got the same system operating in our country, and you start to realize its global aspect and stuff like that, and you start exchanging information about who the players are and all that other sort of stuff, right? But you need to do that within your own communities as well. I live in a motorhome, and I travel all over BC. And I meet people all the time, and I'm always passing out my brochures and running into people. Sometimes I pass out brochures and, hey, I saw one of your videos, and stuff like that. And sometimes I run into people that are really angry at me. But I kind of like it when people are angry at me, because these are the people that really pay attention to you, right? And if you can figure out what's causing the anger, then often you end up with a really good friend, because you've explained something to them that's just got them, well, if this is, this can't be true, And a lot of times, it's even public servants. That these are the guys that are really brainwashed, because they go to work every day, and part of their work, of course, is the brainwashing that comes along with the company store thing, so they really don't kind of see it from your point of view. But, so they'll get very angry with you, but, if you can tell them, hey, hang on, okay, now look at it from my point of view here now. I'm not a public servant. Okay, I have to go out there, and under my own steam, I got to turn over rocks and do whatever I can in order to make money. Now, I've done that by myself, and there's nobody else there, but then I got to take a chunk of what I made and put it into a tax kitty. You, on the other hand, work for the government. You get paid out of the tax kitty, so you got your chunk sitting in front of you that you worked for, and then they take a bit back and they put it back into the tax kitty. Now, from your perspective, you've done the same thing I've done. You got your chunk of money and you had to pay your taxes. But the big difference is that I went out in the world and I earned it, and I contributed. So, as far as the tax kitty goes, the bottom line is that I made a positive contribution. You, however, got paid out of the tax kitty and put some back in. It's an accounting trick. All they did is just took some out. You didn't contribute anything. You took something out. The bottom line is that private individuals in this country are taxpayers, and everybody working for the government is a tax receiver that contributes nothing to the tax base. CRA has no trouble collecting taxes from public servants. Public servants believe they pay their taxes because they can see the little deductions on their check. Ink on paper. Money they never ever got. Money that was never ever there, that indicates that that's what they contributed to the tax base. It wasn't. What they did was they got something out of it. They got paid by us because they're our employees. You see, in this idea that public servants have that they're taxpayers, so they have the right to force us to pay our taxes. No. All public servants do when they work against you, the private individual, to pay your taxes, all they are doing is forcing you to pay their wages. And they are forcing you and giving you no choice. They are enslaving you legislatively, because you have the right as a free and equal human being to hang on to your money. And you know what? I think the world needs to be run on taxes, but I think a legitimate government sends a tax bill to somebody, and a free and equal man says, okay, yeah, I like this, I'll pay this, I'll pay this, I'll pay this. Sorry, I'm not going to teach you, I'm not going to pay for this thing that you're passing out as an education. Fire all the teachers, I don't care. Not paying road taxes. Roads are in a mess, already done that, paid it up front and everything else. And then we control our public servants through our own private purse. And if we don't pay taxes, then we live the consequences of it. And that's all right too, because right now we're paying taxes and we're not getting anything from them. In fact, we're getting attacked by the people that have been put into positions of power in the first place. Half the people in this country work for the government. In other words, half the people in this country are, their job is to take what you're out there trying to make. Well, when you get so many men who do nothing, trying to live on the backs of everybody else, pretty soon it's just too unbearable alone. And whenever all of private enterprise falls, that's your entire tax base, and that's why we're sliding backwards. You know, all of these phony money games that we've had played against us. Canada is so far in debt that if we took our entire gross national product and put it towards the debt, we couldn't afford to pay the interest payments. And you ask yourself, well, how can it possibly keep going? Well, the company store is printing more money, and we're getting further and further in debt. And actually, you know, company store, Canada is no different than Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire money, same thing as Her Majesty's money. The big difference is Canadian Tire has product on the shelf to back what they print. The Canadian government doesn't. They back it with our debts. They give us a bigger debt load when we're already in debt and can't afford it anyway, so the debts just keep on going up. So not only are they putting out their money with nothing to back it, they backed it with all of our resources, gave away all of our resources to themselves, by the way. We owe these debts to the people that own the company store, by the way. Okay, so this is how they're using these company stores in the commonwealth that they claim as their commonwealth. That's how they get the wealth out of the nations, through the systems that they put into place. So how do we destroy these systems? We don't. You see, these people are destroyers, and we are creators. And they come along, and what they want you to do is they want you to fight with them. You can't fight evil. How can you jump down into a sewer with a man and come out of it equal in any way? Yeah, you come out of it just as smelly as he is, for God's sakes. I spent a lot of years, you know, trying to fight these people and stuff like that. I learned that. You know, like, it's just not worth it. You know, it takes a piece of you. It puts that evil into your own soul. You know, and that's, yeah, and then you lose. You end up on the dark side with everybody else, and you have to realize, all right, what's going on here? I wrote a song once, and one of the verses in it, what's in my heart and mind will make this place, but what's in yours we also have to face. You see, the environment that we live in is a consequence of all of our actions. And if these people can control everything, and control everything to the point that you are rendered inactive, then only their actions count, and evil prevails. And that's what it means when they say all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. But you see, there's another strategy. Refuse evil. Create and refuse evil. These people are destroyers. They go all over the place and they destroy. Create and refuse evil. Don't let them have your children. Don't let them have your taxes. Don't let them take things. Take pictures of their children. When they come in to seize your home, let them have it. Take pictures of them. Take pictures of their children living in nice houses. Put up posters. Here is Mr. Nice Police Officer that lives 2 blocks down. Here he is putting my family, here's my wife and children crying out on the street, and my taxes pay his wages. Let's go over look at his nice house. His smiling fat little children sucking on lollipops while your kid's chewing on an old bootlace for the last bit of nutrition. We're doing this to ourselves. We're being played for suckers. The cops. You ever go party with cops? Fucking weird motherfuckers, man, and they're paranoid to the tits. Great big galoot sitting there. Oh, it's so dangerous out there, and I'm such a hero, and, you lay it on the line, and nobody likes it, you try and order their lives around for them, and they just absolutely hate you for it. And they don't fucking get it. Sitting there smoking pot and drinking just like everybody else, right? Gotta hide it, though, because you can't have anybody know that you're just the same as anybody else, but actually they're not. They have a much higher incidence of drug addiction and alcoholism than anybody else, but they're also put off into this little baggie around their brains, so they're out of sync with the rest of the people that they live with. I says to this one guy, "You're mad. You don't have a hard job. Everybody's scared shitless of you. The only time you're going to have a problem with a criminal is if you corner him. But you know what? That's what you're paid for. And that's what you're prepared for. You got on a flat jacket and a gun and you're whining like a baby. You don't have a hard time in society. Look at that little old lady with the cane. And that galoot with the gun. He ain't trying to rob you. He wants to rob her. She's the one in absolute jeopardy in society. That she'd be living in fear and all this other sort of stuff. When you realize that we live in just this retarded place. At one point in time, the cops didn't need guns. For Christ's sakes, you licked off a cop, your old man tear the hell out of you. The old man hates him worse than anybody else, right? Because the fabric of our society is falling apart. But the thing is we can't sit silent and we can't sit inactive. You have to do all the things you can be to be creative. Because the people that fight against you, how do they fight against you? They fight against you with evil. They try to destroy your reputation. We go into a lot of communities and stuff like that, and we have the RCMP starting their little rumor mills and all that other kind of shit. And people coming into town looking for us, and everybody tells them where we are. They don't quite make it out to see us or whatever, but they make it to everybody else's place. Like my kids are living out in Edgewood. They come home on the bus one day, and they said, "Dad," he said, "did you know the cops were out here looking for us?" And I said, "No, I didn't know that." And he said, "Well, they stopped at everybody's place in Edgewood." And I said, "Nobody in Edgewood knew where we lived?" I says, "Everybody out here knows where we live." He says, "Yeah." He says, "That's what the weird thing was." He says, "By the time the third kid on the bus said the cops had stopped out at their place and asked where we were and warned them about us," he says, "I figured they were on one of their disinformation campaigns." Bright kid. I know he reads my brochures at least. But that's the reality of the world, right? Peddle disinformation. Try to individually destroy everybody that stands up, and that's why nobody wants to say anything. But you know what? We're all wise to it. But how are you going to get together with people to handle the problem if you never talk to them? And keep in mind, if nobody says anything, and I know for a fact that there's thousands of people out there, they haven't given their guns to the RCMP. They got food, they got water, they're armed to the teeth. And it seems to be, I think it's going to be martial law will be the key. And then it's not going to be fighting their neighbors either. You know, sometimes there's not a lot that you can do in that situation other than say, well, you know, I think you're wrong. You know, I think we need to know how to talk to each other. I mean, I knew pretty well who fired through my motorhome, and I did have an inclination just to go over to their place and start firing right back, but I didn't do that. You know, I'm all right, we're going to expose it to the bright white light of day here, you know, and we're going to see how many cockroaches are flying around in here. And I found out there's an awful more than I ever figured, but that's all right. You know, every time you do something, you learn a little bit more, and you program it into your environment, and you get a couple more names and all that other sort of stuff, and you learn who's in on it and how it all works. And you know, there are organizations, people that are wise to what's going on, and Canadians that are working together for their lawful rights in a peaceful manner with honor and dignity. You know, like the Squamish Nation down on the coast in British Columbia. You know, people that have realized what is going on, and they're just standing up to the Crown and they're saying, no more, no, you can't do this to us. You know, we are wise to what you are. You're registered on the Securities Exchange Commission. All of the courts in BC are nothing more than privately owned businesses. You know, it's the same thing as owning a coffee shack or whatever the latest little craze thing is. The courts are exchanged on the Securities Exchange Commission as for-profit entities. They write their own legislation. Every piece of legislation they write is another dollar in the pocket of the Crown that they can use in order to attack the private individual people in this country, right? Because the Crown put it up, and now they hire half of our own people. I mean, who are these cops? I mean, take a look at them. You know, a lot of them are evil old bastards that deserve a good kick in the ass because they're just corrupt to the core. But you know what? There's a lot of bright young men, and you can tell just looking at them that they shine. These are the very best that our society has to offer. You know, when they stand up in their heart and they want to do the right thing, and they're deeply caring people, and they care about their country and the communities that they go into, and they don't realize that the old bastards playing the games behind their backs are ruining it for them all, and they're totally undoing any amount of good that they would. But I mean, who do you end up facing down? And whenever you come to odds playing with these evil public servants, you know, you go into the Crown Agent's office, and you don't want to get mad at anybody in there. They're your neighbors, and they're all ladies. You know, they do that on purpose. There's no men working in those offices unless it's some guy in the back room, maybe the odd manager, but those are mostly ladies too, right? You know, and they do that on purpose. All the a-holes on the phone are all guys down in Victoria.
Oh, yes. No, I don't think he can do that.
Guys out where I live don't talk like that. What is it about a telephone that, you know, you talk on the telephone all day? And, what in Jesus? It's kind of funny, you know. I don't talk on the telephone. My wife gets on the phone, and she tries to handle it because she has much more patience than me. And I wouldn't deal with them at all, except for I'm stuck on this stupid disability, and I can't seem to get off of it. I just save up my pennies and pay the Crown for licenses to get off on a mining claim where there's nothing in the middle of nowhere by myself, and they come out there and they shoot at me and then charge me for writing letters about it. Crazy ass world. One day it'll change though, because you know what? The bottom line is, you can't just keep attacking good people. I don't have a criminal record. I haven't done anything wrong. I'd have been charged with something a long time ago. They hate my guts for the stuff that I write, believe me. If they could have charged me with something, they would have. I'd have gotten into growing pot the same as everybody else. It's a lucrative business. I mean, the cops all fucking do it. And they don't like me saying that either, but I fed an RCMP grow-op to my goats, and they came in and took my wood stove out of my home. Yeah, oh yeah, same people charging me. But you see, You can only do shit like this to people for so long. And they've done it for so long to everybody that everybody knows how corrupt they are. Right? And it doesn't matter the bright young people anymore. No, you know what? You've allowed this to happen. You haven't said to your masters, hey, what right do we have to impress all of these public laws on private individual people out there? Why are we pulling everybody over and giving them tickets if our job is to keep the peace? The guy's going peacefully down the road, maybe too fast, but he hasn't done anybody an injury. There's people that follow us around with ticket books and, bugger that. You're only going to get people killing you. That's why you want our guns. We know that. You know, let's just call a spade a spade. Oh, calling a spade a spade. I had a black fellow say to me, I started to read your book, but the moment I got to call a spade, he says, I knew you were a racist, and that was the end of it. Okay. It's a classical quotation from, I believe, Plato, that was actually mistranslated. If I remember the story correctly, what he actually said was, let's just call a bowl. And spade and bowl in Greek are very close, and it was instead, let's just call a spade a spade. A spade is a pointed digging instrument. A shovel is a rounded digging instrument. So that's what that means. And what more can you say about it? Okay, the last thing that I wanted to comment on was I was talking to a lady about time, you know, and I kind of says, you know, I wonder 20 years from now if it will have even made any difference, right? She says, I kind of think about stuff like that. And I said, you know, 50 years from now, there's probably maybe not even going to be anybody around that knew you. And I says, 100 years from now, we're going to be gone from memory. Chances are anything that we've done will be already churned back into the earth or whatever, right? And it makes you kind of wonder, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, what the effect of what you do really matters. You know, and so many people think about that, and they say, you know, well, there's nothing I can really do. And I kind of think that that's what allows it to perpetuate itself. That's just my kind of take on it, because I often feel like, oh, why am I bothering with all of this? You know, I could be having a lot better life and everything else, but there's so much that is just wrong with the model in the world where too many people starve that, you know, how can you enjoy your own meal contemplating it? And I kind of think about how we're all interconnected and everything else, and how much our lives really do mean to us, you know, and whether it is a benefit to us to try and accrue as much capital and assets as we possibly can, because they're just going to be taken back, and, you know, from the cradle to the grave we're manipulated, and you're not going to be able to leave your children anything anyways. So, you know, there's this kind of playoff of what really should I be doing about this thing. And I don't know, I kind of think that we do have an impact, and you know, what I know for certain is this: we have this one chance to be the very best we can. And if we can't be the very best we can, perhaps we have this one chance to leave the world such that our children have the one chance to be the very best that we really can. Our imaginations are fantastic, wonderful things. Our imaginations help us bring beauty into the world, unimaginable beauty that we stand in awe of thousands of years later. Got these little fruit flies flying around. Sorry about that, kind of derailed my train. Oh, so I'm thinking about the cycles of time. You know, when we don't really know, you know, is there life after death and all this other sort of stuff. And it bothers me when people over-contemplate it, you know, because they get into these epistemologies whereby they become convinced that if they suffer in this life, they'll have it better in the next, with absolutely no guarantee or proof whatsoever that there's even going to be a next. They give up what they do have for an idea, a belief. And in the middle of a belief, B-E-L-I-E, is a lie. Go with what you know for certain. You do have this chance in your life. You can feel yourself do the best with what you have right here. And don't just give up and say, oh, I'm a really good person for giving up and I'll get a reward in the afterlife. Because you know what? What if it's just that's all there is, and that was the one chance that you had to contribute something to the cosmos, and you did nothing, and that was the end of your existence? Or you created something so fantastic that thousands of people just use it for the basis of building something else. And maybe nobody ever remembers who you were for your contribution, but you know what? You're still alive in the memory of the human race because you've contributed something to it, something so positive that's led it into a positive direction. And that's why I think that we just simply can't sit down and say, what are you going to do, and give up because we're up against impossible odds. Lots of people have fought impossible odds in the hope that maybe their children wouldn't have to face them. And if that's the best we can do, then we ought to at least do that. So I wanted to recite a poem for Brittany. How long have we known each other? When you were a tadpole and I was a fish, in Paleozoic time, side by side on the ebbing tide, we sprawled through the ooze and the slime, or skittered with many a caudal flick to the depths of the Carbrian fen. My heart was rife with the joy of life, for I loved you even then. And mindless we lived, and mindless we loved, and mindless at last we died, and deep in the rift of a Caradoc drift we slumbered side by side. Well, the world turned on in the lathe of time, and the hot lands heaved amain, till we drew our breath from the womb of death and crept into life again. We were amphibians, scaled and tailed and drab as a dead man's hand. We coiled at ease neath the dripping trees, or sprawled through the mud and the sand, croaking and blind with our three-clawed feet, and writing a language dumb. There wasn't a spark in that empty dark to hint of a life to come. Yet happy we lived, and happy we loved, and happy we died once more, and our forms were rolled in the clinging mold of a Neocomian shore. Well, the eons came and the eons fled, and the sleep that wrapped us fast was riven away in a newer day, and the night of death was past. Then light and swift through the jungle trees we swung on our airy flights, or breathed in the balms of the fronded palms in the hush of the moonlit nights. And oh, what beautiful years were there when our hearts clung each to each, and our lives were filled and our senses thrilled to the first faint dawn of speech. Thus life by life and love by love we passed through cycles strange, and breath by breath and death by death we followed the chain of change, till there came the time in the law of life when o'er the nursing side the shadows broke and the soul awoke in a strange dim dream of God. And I was thewed like an auroch bull and tusked like the great cave bear, and you, my sweet, from head to feet were gowned in your glorious hair. Deep in the gloom of a fireless cave, and the night crept o'er the plain, and the moon hung red o'er the riverbed, we mumbled the bones of the slain. While I flaked the flint to a cutting edge, I shaped it with brutal craft, I tore a shank from the woodland lank, and fitted it head and haft. I hid me close to the reedy tarn, where the mammoth came to drink. Through brawn and bone I drove the stone, and slew him upon the brink. Then loud I howled to the moonlit waste, loud answered our kith and kin. From west and east to the crimson feast the clan came tramping in. O'er joint and gristle and padded hoof we fought and clawed and tore, and cheek by jowl with many a growl we topped the marble o'er. Well, I carved that fight on a reindeer bone with a rude and hairy hand. I pictured his fall on the cavern wall, that men might understand that we lived by blood in the right of might ere human laws were drawn, and the age of sin did not begin till our brutal tush were gone. And that was 1,000,000 years ago, in a time that no man knows. Yet here tonight in the mellow light we sit at Delmonico's. Your eyes are deep as the Devon springs, your hair is dark as jet, your years are few, your life is new, your soul untried, and yet our trail is on the Kimmeridge clay and the scarp of the Purbeck flags. We have left our bones in the Bagshot stones and deep in the Coralline crags. Our loves are old, our lives are old, and death shall come amain. Shall it come today, what man may say, we shall not live again. For God wrought our souls from the tremadoc beds, He furnished them wings to fly, He sowed our spawn in the world's dim dawn, and I know we shall not die. Those cities rise of the forgotten graves, where the crook-boned men make war, and the Oxwain Creek, or the buried caves, where the mummied mammoth are. So as we linger at luncheon here, or many a dainty dish, let us drink anew to a time when you were a tadpole, and I was a fish. I love that. Evolution, the possibilities, an imagination of man, that could create such a poem. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's really who we are. We're defined by our magical moments. And the people that want to rule our lives want to define us by our lowest moments. Well, it's a psychological attack. But my fellow countrymen, they don't fool me. I pass you every day on the street. I look in your eyes, and I know the beauty in your heart and the frustration. And I know that inaction often comes from not wanting to fight this hideous evil on the level that it deals with things, and that's something that is awfully hard to deal with, because most of us know that laws are good for nothing. You only need one law, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's very simple. If you do another man an injury, he charges you and you go to court. If you never do anything to anybody, you should never come abreast of the law. So we know that what the true law is, as opposed to 3.5 million rules and regulations that are just a con game in order to suck money out of people and pretend that you have the legitimate right to do so while you do so at gunpoint thing. Eventually the lies all fall apart, and that's where we're at the end games, because these lies have fallen apart before. And you see, we are going through another cycle, but the whole thing is that our grandparents went through the last cycle when they played this game, and they told us about it, and our parents watched for it, and they told us about it, and we told our children about it, and now we're all wise to it, with the exception of those that are miseducated into the system. And that's really kind of the funny thing, because the most educated people in the system are the ones that are most miseducated with respect to what the reality of the situation is. It's kind of like living in the middle of the ocean when somebody tells you that, you live in a big bowl of water, and this guy's crazy, because what do you measure with respect to what to determine that there's some other medium there? Right? And, well, if you're a private individual, you easily have something to measure against. It's called disparity, right? But if you work for the government in a controlled environment where they give you enough to survive with goods from their company store, not that the bankers don't attack the public as well, because you see, the public are the target as well, but the public have to ask themselves, hey, hang on, if this country is our birthright, and it belongs to all of the collective private individuals in Canada, what right did the public have to come along and say, all lands in Canada are vested in the public? The deception, that's the deception, deceiving private individual people into believing that they're members of the public. Your birth certificate is a member of the public. You're not that person on your birth certificate. But they try to identify you with that person on your birth certificate, because that is who the government owns, is that corporate person on your birth certificate, not you. It's constructive fraud to attach that to you, and they put you up as surety. Nobody else can put you up as surety for another straw man. All you have to do is give them back their straw man, return it to them, saying, I'm no longer acting as surety for your straw man. Here's the thing back. Go away. Get out of my life. At any rate, that's totally another story. I hope you enjoyed the poem, and And the comments, I hope I didn't get too serious, because that wasn't my intent. I just wanted to say thank you to a few people and answer a couple questions. And for those of you that have been asking me to help them find mining claims, yeah, I have been putting together a list of places and stuff like that. It's just that I've got this court case coming up within the next couple of weeks, so now I just got to kind of concentrate on that. And if anybody, here's the thing with the court cases, like I made a complaint to the Ombudsman about these people, and I named them on there, conspiring to murder us, because I wanted the Ombudsman to investigate it. And the Ombudsman turned around and gave my name to these people, and they came and charged me with uttering threats for making a petition to the Ombudsman. Now, if you believe that I should have the right to petition government, and there's nothing wrong with me writing a complaint to these people, and that at the very least people that are deemed to be free and equal should have the same rights that are accorded to their public servants. Section 2B of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees our public servants the right to freedom of speech in any mode of communication. And I exercised the medium of writing a registered letter to the Ombudsman for a complaint, and I think it highly irregular that people that tried to murder me would turn around and charge me with uttering threats for sending this complaint to the Ombudsman. So if any of you would like to fill out the online complaint form for the BC Ombudsman and complain about the fact that I've been charged for writing a formal complaint to the Ombudsman, I'd love for you to do that. So if you write me an email at townsendjim@hotmail.com, I'll send you the link to the BC Ombudsman and my file number and stuff like that, so that you can put in a complaint. You know, if we all stand up together against these people, we can get them to quit attacking us, and that's what we really need to do, is stand up against them, and we need to stand up and fix this situation, because we can't go on like this. Our economy keeps on crashing. People never have that security of having a home and being able to plan for the future. You know, it was not our intent in instituting a government to institute a forum to govern ourselves, because free men are self-governing. It's surely the intent of free men when they set up a government to govern the civil service. And we free Canadians have never gotten together and formed our own lawful de jure governments. And people say to me, how do you do that? Well, you just go do that. You don't have to fight the illegitimate government. You know, those fights are already going on. There have already been formal petitions to the United Nations against these corporations, and giving the registered corporate names from the Securities Exchange Commission and stuff like that, and they're invalid claims, right? Now what we need to do is stand up and just form lawful de jure governments. And when these other governments communicate with us, send them back legal correspondence. Sorry, this is a challenge to your claim of right. This is my birthright. Prove your claim of right, and you will very quickly see that they cannot prove their claim of right. And if you do take the time to get Black's Law Dictionary and look up color of law, claim of right, adverse possession, you will very quickly clue in on what it is that I'm saying. Look up lawful, look up legal, look up free, look up state, look up civil service, look up government, look up constitution. And the whole thing becomes very clear to you with 10 little definitions how the whole con game is played by this legal system franchise. The Bar Mitzvah Association, Bar Mitzvah, Sons of the Divine Law. The Queen rules by divine right. Her mercenaries, what do they got written on their vehicle? Maintien la droit, maintain the right of a foreign Jewish monarch to rule our country, because her book that she writes, the Crown owns the rights to the copyrights to the Bible. It's printed by Oxford University Press. We're just simply an industry for these people. They send us their preachers, they send us their lawyers, they rule our lives, and we are ruled as sheep.
Get inside. Come on. Come on, Tom Tom.
And that's my sheepdog. And I just happen to have 7 of these little sheepdogs underneath of my table there. And I'm warning you, you come to my place and you're going to get attacked by one of these. Uh-oh, stuck my foot in the melee. Well, I guess that's the end of my videotape for today. Hey, peace and love, y'all. Let's just keep at it and, keep it in our minds that we're going to do the right thing and we're going to live in a wonderful world. It's our choice whether we live in heaven and hell. Let's just choose to make it the very best we can.